Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sadashiv Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmad Acharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Saraswati Namastubhyam Varde Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. कार्पण्य दोषोपहत स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्म सम्मूढचेतः यश्रेयस्यान् निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं साधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम्. ओम वांग में मनसी प्रतिष्ठित मनो में वाची प्रतिष्ठितम आवीर आवीर आवीर्मयेधि वेदस्य मा आनिष्ठः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासिः अनेन अनेधीन अहोरात्रान् सन्धनामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्माम् अवतु तद्वक्तारम् अवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम्. ओम शांति शांति शांति. ओम भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम ओम भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजात्रः स्थिरैरङ्गे स्तुष्टुवाग्वं सस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति न पुष्य विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति न ताक्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमि स्वस्ति न बृहस्पतिर्दधातु. ओम शांति शांति शांतिः. ओम अहं वृक्षस्वरेरिव कीर्ति पृष्ठं गिरेरिव उरुध्व पवित्रो वाजिनीव स्मृतिम् अस्मि द्रविङ्गं सर्वकासं सुमेध अमृतोक्षितः इति त्रिशङ्कोर्वेदनुवाचनम्. ओम शांति शांति शांतिः.
Thanks for the Seva, Smita. So the 3 ohms at the beginning of the class are supposed to start with, not end the shlokas.
Okay.
So you start with 3 ohms, then you do the shlokas. And in the closing shlokas, you do the shlokas and then you end. So basically class starts with 3 ohm, class ends with 3 ohm.
Yeah, I think I had a confusion because last time 3 ohm ends, right? So I thought we have to start also and end also the invocation shloka with 3 ohms.
The class starts with 3 ohm, class ends with 3 ohm, right? That's how we do it. The last 3 need a bit more practice, okay? And I'm going to ask you now every time I see you to do the invocation shloka service because you need to practice, okay? I'm also going to send a recording of these last 3 shlokas for everyone's benefit so that there is something else to like now start practicing again with, right? With renewed focus. Got it. Okay. So back to chapter 12. We finished, I think in the last class a month ago, we did shloka 9, right? So we'll basically right now, this is the Bhakti Yoga chapter name is Bhakti Yoga, and this is the last chapter of the Bhakti Shatak, right? And the chapter starts with a chapter 12, Arjun now asking that, now I have heard from you, Bhagwanji, two different types of bhaktis. There is there is one where you do the worship of Nirgun Nirakar form, and there is a worship of the Sagun Sakar form. Which of the two is better of the two? Is there one that is better than the other? And Bhagwanji essentially says that for me, it is, what is important is that the worshipper should be should focus their mind on me at all times. If a worshipper's mind is focused on me at all times, and he has complete faith in me and is always associated with me, for me, that person has the best yoga. That means he has the best connection to me. Then he goes on to say that it is for a person who is aware of their physical form, it is nearly impossible for them, not nearly, it is impossible for them to do bhakti of Nirgun Nirakar. Because you yourself are so aware of your physical form. You are steeped in Sagun Sakar. So there is no way for you to even imagine what Nirgun Nirakar looks like, feels like, and hence it is impossible for you to do puja of that. Okay? And so for people like us, for Arjun, he specifically says that for you, Sagun Sakar form of worship is your path. Okay? And he defines the form as yours. Thank you, Vedant. I'll take it after the class. Okay?
I'll just leave it.
Leave it here. Thank you. So he says,
Hi again.
You don't say. Okay, so he's basically saying that for Arjun, who is aware of their body, who is aware of their Sagun Sakar form, who are steeped in body consciousness, they cannot do Nirgun Nirakar form of worship. Okay, they have to do Sagun Sakar form of worship. And what is that Sagun Sakar form of worship? It is essentially Bhakti Mishrit Karm Yoga, right? And then he lays out very, very clearly what or how that bhakti should look like, and what the devotee has to do to attain him under this form of, I would say, practice. Okay. So in Shlok 8, he clarifies that you should allow, so from a top-down perspective, the top after the top after after Bhagwanji, after the Nirgun Nirakar form is who? It is intellect. Intellect controls mind, mind controls the senses, right? So he says, allow that intellect to rest in me. If your intellect rests in me, then next is mind. Your mind is fixed on me. What does mind is fixed on me mean? That means everywhere you see, every VVGP you interact with, you interact as if you're interacting with Bhagwanji, and you see Bhagwanji in every VVGP. If these two things are attained, that means your intellect rests in me, meaning every time you have to make a decision, you have to do something, clearly you know that your Bhagwanji's scriptures or Bhagwanji's rules will guide you as to what is the right thing to do. Okay. So he says that so basically that's the first step, right? If you can do this, then you've attained me. You're conjoined with me. Okay. That's the first thing. Then he goes on to say, okay, now I understand that it is possible that along your journey, you're not that far along that your mind can be fully fixed on me, because mind is very chanchal. It is constantly wavering, right? So if it is constantly wavering and you're unable to fix your mind steadily on me, you don't see Bhagwanji in every VVGP, you keep fluctuating from that point, then he says, then do Abhyas Yoga. Your mind will waver, okay? And then you bring it back again. Your mind will waver again, you bring it back again. That's your Abhyas Yoga. So that is the second thing that you can do. If you cannot constantly be in yoga with Bhagwanji, with your mind steadily fixed on him, every time it wavers, be aware. Oh, now it has wavered, bring it back in. Oh, now it has wavered again, bring it back in. Oh, now it has wavered again, bring it back in. That's what you're supposed to do. Okay. Now Bhagwanji will say, what happens in Shloka 10? He will tell us, oh, I can't even do that. because I'm not that aware at this stage. I don't even know that my mind has wavered. It happens, right? If you sit down to do meditation, actually the physical form of meditation, you would realize what that means, right? There are times when you're aware that your mind has wavered. There are times you're aware, first of all, that you're meditating on a certain object. And then there are times when you're aware that, oh, my mind wavered, and you bring it back in. But there are times you're not even aware that your mind, that you have wavered. You go on with a thought and that's it, you're gone. You don't even know you're gone. Correct? So what happens if you are at that stage that you're not even aware? Then Bhagwanji says, okay, what's the next step? For that, for a devotee who is at that level of awareness, what should that person do? Okay. So we'll start with, let's say, top of the thing. Bhagyashri, you start reading with me, okay? We'll do Shloka 10. So start with connection, then we'll do reading.
Yeah. What other options are open if a person is unable to undertake the yoga of practice, as explained in the preceding shloka? The Lord says,
Abhyasepya samarthoasi
Abhyasepya samartosi
matkarma paramo bhava
matkarma paramo bhava
madartham api karmani
madarthamapi karmani
kurvan siddhim vapsyasi
kurvan siddhim vapyasasi
vapsyasi.
vapsyasi.
So now he's saying abhyasepya samarthoasi. Abhyas api asamarthoasi. If you are incapable of doing even abhyas yoga, okay? Mat karma paramo bhava. Then you perform all your actions for me. Bhava means do, right? Mat karma paramo bhava. Perform all your actions for me. Madartham api karmani. Okay? If you give all your actions to me, to my nimit, kurvan siddhim vapsyasi, then you will achieve. Vapsyasi, you will achieve siddhi. Okay? Siddhi, perfection.
If you are unable to undertake the yoga of practice, perform all actions for me. Even by performing actions for me, you would attain perfection. Performing actions for the Lord. The Lord provides an alternative course to be pursued by the one who is unable to take the yoga of practice. He says if the mind cannot be stopped from straying into thoughts of sense objects and thus cannot be applied to the contemplation of the Lord, then life may continue as before, fulfilling the requirements of normal social conduct and complying with the do's and don'ts of scriptural sanction. In addition, all conceit of being a doer of actions through mind, speech, and the body should be given up. While performing duties, the sense of an action being superior or inferior to any other has to be given up completely. The duty should be performed well and in accordance with the norms of decent conduct. All actions performed in this manner have to be dedicated to the Lord. The Lord assures that a person who performs duties in this manner would attain the Lord.
Right. So what Bhagwanji now is saying ki, suppose you're unable to fix your mind on him. That means you're roaming around in this world, you're doing all your duties, you're doing all the actions. And in every VVGP, you are unable to hold on to the subtle behind the gross that we are seeing. Okay. So if I'm dealing with Rituj, I see Rituj. I don't see the divinity behind him. I don't see, I feel as if like I'm doing something for Rituj, or I am dealing with Rituj and not that I'm dealing with Bhagwanji. Okay. What if that is happening for me? Then he says, in that case, do all your duty without a sense of ego. Okay. Give up a sense of doership. Give up your sense of that I am doing something, right? Obliterate that ego. Understand that whatever I am doing as a nimit of the Lord. Rituj is Rituj, I am me, but I am Bhagwanji's nimit. And I am doing all action with the energy given by him, with the vibhutis given by him, with the resources provided by him, for an opportunity provided by him for my own uddhar. So if I'm doing something, I'm not doing it for Rituj, I'm doing it for myself. If I'm doing something, I'm not doing this for Visa Lakshi, I'm doing this for myself, because this is an opportunity for me to cleanse myself, right? I'm not doing something for anybody else. This is whatever else happens is Bhagwan Ji ka khel. Okay? And if you perform all your duties without that sense of doership, as long as every moment you remember कि भगवान जी की वजह से भगवान जी, I am doing everything with his energy provided by him, resources provided by him, vibhutis provided by him, and the results, forget about the results. For now, the very action, when you're getting into the action, you're remembering the Lord. Okay, action is happening here before you're getting into the action, and while you're going through the action, you're remembering the Lord. And remember that it is all his doing. As long as that is also happening, then everything you do, all the duties, of course, and these have to be the ones that are conjoined by scriptures. You can't go and do something that is against the niyam of the Lord. Okay, as long as you're doing that, then all the duties that you perform in this fashion will also help you attain the Lord, because this is a cleansing mechanism. Okay, when you're doing it that way, then you're constantly cleansing yourself by obliterating your ego. Okay, and when you're obliterating our ego, we are obliterating the Ravan inside of us, right? Ravan, the only negative he had, which was the cause of his downfall, was his ego. He's representative of ego. Everything else he was doing was good. He had a lot of vibhutis, he did a lot of devotion, a lot of upasana, a lot of tyag, a lot of tap. But then all of that served to increase his ego only. And that ego was his downfall, because that ego then ultimately led him down to do a lot of wrong things, because he couldn't look beyond his ego, right? Now, what happens if you are unable to remember Lord before you start doing action and while you're doing the action? That's the next step. What if you forgot, right? What if you're unable to hold on to it? You think, oh, I'm the cool person, I'm doing everything. Then what happens, right? That's the next one.
So just to add, right? I think we had talked about it a month ago when we did this class. This sequence of shlokas you should highlight and read whenever you are facing completely clouded mind, whenever you face confusion, whenever you're facing like you're completely seeped in samsara. One example could be when you, for example, lose your job. Then it's very hard for you to find Bhagwanji anywhere, right? Forget having your mind focused on Bhagwanji, but like, how do I see him anywhere? He's actually making it easy in these sequence of shlokas. He starts with the subtle, but each of these shlokas is walking towards the gross element as well, on how you connect with him through an action or through the fruits of an action, etc., etc. Right? So
going from the subtle to the grossest level. So Abhinav is absolutely right. Whenever he gave an example, but basically anytime you feel clouded, you feel like you're not in connection with the Lord, you don't know what's going on, you don't know what to do, you don't know what's the right thing to do, go through these shlokas, right? And after this, from shloka 13 to 20, that's called Amritashtak. We'll go through that as well, probably in the next class.
So when you go through these shlokas, you will find one place for you to be. So if you, let me highlight that example of losing your job, right? If you're in an employment pass in Singapore, you've lost your job, you only have so many days to stay in Singapore, right? You can imagine your mind will be completely clouded with the anxiety, stress of the moment, right? So in that moment, what do? You want to be in action. You want to be able to like make a list, start applying for jobs, talk to people, networking. And when you're seeped in action, this is where this shloka will apply. Do all of these actions, but do it for me. Do it for Bhagwanji. And if you cannot even do that, then the next shloka will apply. And that's how you read these shlokas and bring it into your daily life.
Kavita, you'll read the next.
Is there any other alternative if an aspirant is not able to perform actions for the Lord? The Lord says,
अथैतदप्यशक्तोऽसि
Ataidadapya saktoshi
कर्तुं मद्योगमाश्रितः
kartum matyogamashritah
सर्वकर्मफलत्यागम्
sarvakarma phalatyagam
ततः कुरु यतात्मवान्.
tatat kuru yatatmavan.
Okay. Ath aitad api shaktoasi. Even if the above action, above what has been told to us in the previous shloka, you are a shakti, you don't have the samarthya, you don't have the energy, you don't have the drive, you don't have the will, or you don't have the ability to even do that. Kartum madyogamashritah. Then become ashrit on me, become dependent on me. Okay? Sarva karma phalatyagam. Renounce all the fruits of all the actions. Right? Tatah kuru yatatmavan. Then when you do this, basically you have got vijay over all your man and buddhi. Okay? You have subdued your mind and intellect, essentially. Okay, then in that way you have done, you become ashrit on me. That means you're taking shelter in me. Okay.
If you are unable to do even this, then renounce the result of all actions, subduing your mind and intellect and taking shelter in me. Renunciation of the result of actions. This shloka is of relevance to an aspirant who is not able to fix the mind on the Lord, as referred in the shloka 8, and lacks of the capability of pursuing the yoga practice, as enunciated in shloka 9, and also cannot perform actions for the Lord, as suggested in shloka 10. The course prescribed for such an aspirant is that while performing all essential duties, all connection may be given up with the outcome of such actions. In fact, all actions can be likened to the functioning of the tree, which provides nourishment to its roots through its sap. And when the fruits ripen, they fall off, and the tree has no connection with them thereafter. In the same manner, a person may be unable to keep the mind and intellect absorbed in the Lord, shloka 8, bring his wavering mind to think of the Lord while initiating actions, shloka 9, or to perform actions for the Lord, shloka 10. But such a person can sever all the connections with the outcome of actions. The Lord assures that even such a person would be able to attain the Lord. There is, however, a precondition for this course of action. The mind and intellect of such person should be perfectly controlled and disciplined while performing all duties with natural ease. All these courses lead to attainment of Lord. They vary from each other to suit the temperament, circumstance, and the capacity of different aspirants. They all constitute the yoga of devotion mixed with action.
So now here you have not been able to remember Lord before starting the action, while doing the action. Then after you have done the action, at least in that moment, then renounce all ties to the results. Okay, give the results up to the Lord, give it to him as prasad. Okay, and then now basically what does that mean in practical terms? Then after you have done all your activity, whatever happens, you will accept that result and not get attached to a particular outcome. You do all your actions. After that, whatever happens is Bhagwanji's blessing. Whatever. It may go down what you think is favorable to you, or it may go down the route of something that's unfavorable to you or perceived as an unfavorable circumstance for you. But even that should be as acceptable to you as a favorable circumstance, and realize that in both ways, this is for your benefit. And then you go and find where is your benefit there, and find every situation to connect with the Lord. Okay. So you cannot hold on to a result. Now, what does that mean? Holding on to result, how does that manifest in us on a daily basis? When we are connected to a certain result, when we haven't given up our attachment to results of our actions, then we are worried. We are worried about what's going to happen after we've done it. What will be the result? We are worried. We cannot let go of the anxiety or worry associated with the future. If there is anxiety about future, if there is anxiety about a certain outcome, if you're constantly in that kya hoga wala state, that means you've not given up the attachment to the results. Okay, so that's one way for you to recognize that I haven't done this. And the moment you start to worry about the future in any form, children, job, circumstances, health, parents, your name, fame, whatever, right? In every situation, you are, now that does not mean that you don't plan, right? You can't say, oh, whatever will happen. You plan, right? That's part of your action. Sansar nahi tyagna hai, sansarikta tyagni hai. You don't give up your actions in the world. You give up attachment to the world. Okay. And when you give up attachment to the world, then you no longer have anxieties or thrills like there is no sinusoidal wave of your emotions. And when there is no sinusoidal wave of your emotions, your energy is a lot more managed. And so you're not wasting energy. You're not wasting, dissipating the energy inside of you, which means that you have more energy to perform, to achieve, to get things done. Whatever Bhagwanji wants you to get done. And that means that you will always be in a state of happiness and bliss. You will experience. So ultimately, where does it all lead to? Ultimately, tyag karna hai. Everything leads to tyag, not acquisition. It leads to tyag. Ultimately, you have to give up attachment to desires. Because what is results? What do you mean by attachment to results? It comes from a desire to see certain outcome happen. So that desire, the attachment to desires have to be given up. It is all about tyag and not acquisition. It is not about acquiring. It is about giving up. It all starts from giving up. Everything, the whole journey to seeing Bhagwanji is not about getting something. It is about giving up. Giving up our ego, giving up our desires, giving up anger, giving up our jealousies, giving up all the demons inside of us. It's making us empty. As we empty ourselves of our notions of how life must be led, our notions of what must happen, our notions of control, we will become lighter. And as we become lighter, we go up. All these notions weigh us down towards the gross. And as we start giving these things up, we become lighter and we become closer and closer. We are able to, as we rise above, our consciousness rises above, our ability to appreciate and get connected to the subtle becomes better and better. So all these things that we've read from Shloka 8 to 11 are essentially Bhakti Mishrit Karma Yoga path, which is the path that Bhagwanji very clearly in unequivocal terms is telling us that this is your path. Make no mistake. If at any point of time we get into a confusion saying, yeah, this is not my path. You know, I want to go to Himalayas. I want to sit there and I don't want to do my duty at home. Then know that this is delusion. This is you being Arjun in chapter 1. This is exactly what he wanted to do. And he made all kinds of really high sounding principles were used by him to talk about why he needs to run away from this war, how terrible this war is. Correct? So if at any point of time, anything that we do propels us, or we have a feeling which tells us run away from the situation, and however amazingly cogent your arguments might sound to yourself, remember that we are in Arjun Vishad Yoga. Because Bhagwanji never tells us to give up sansar and to run away from our duties. The very sansar, the very VVGP we find ourselves in, the very situation we find ourselves in, the very difficult situation that we are supposed to deal with, the difficult relationships we are supposed to deal with, or the demons that we have been born with that we need to deal with. All of these are the best path for us to achieve Bhagwanji in the fastest and the most amazing path possible for us. It's been specifically curated just for me. My path is not a path for anybody else on the screen. My path is very specifically personalized and curated just for me, based on what my antakaran is, what I need to achieve Bhagwanji. So he is the ultimate, what do you call it, that globalization concept? He does the ultimate globalization, ultimate personalization. There's nobody who can do personalization as much as he does, right? For each one of us in our path to get to him.
The difference between the previous shloka and this shloka is in the previous shloka, he's asking us to do every action, but start that action with the right bhav, the bhav of doing it for him, right? So whether, I'll give you an example. If you're cooking a meal for your family, if you can start that action of cooking your meal saying, I'm cooking a meal for my family to be able to do his work, and I'm doing it for his pleasure, right? That's the start of an action. So if you can have your intention at the start of an action, that's the previous shloka. If you cannot always remember and have that bhav while you're doing that action, then Bhagwanji says this is the second stage, which is after the result is made, don't get attached to that result. So if you serve the food and people start praising that food, then don't allow yourself to take that credit, because then you're creating bondage with that action. And this is the Corbett phrase even in Western culture, where they always say, this too shall pass. Don't attach yourself to any result. This too shall pass. That's it. That's the start of giving tyag of your particular action. And this is best experienced if you play sports. Like if you play any racket sports, right? And you want to hit a particular shot and you don't hit it, right? And then you get annoyed in your head because that shot did not go the way you wanted it to. What will happen to your next 3-4 shots? They will all become bad, right? What do you say in sport? Let that go and focus again on the ball. Let that go and then focus again on the ball. After the end of the game, you will have time to review what worked, what did not work. But in that moment, let go, which is why sport is such a big high for people, because they experience this cycle of letting go and coming back to focus, letting go and coming back to focus.
Coming back to the
And
present.
if we,
You're constantly in present. You're not worried about the past and you're not worried about the future.
so in this shloka as well, if we are able to implement it, that's what it would look like. Letting go of that result and coming back to what you need to do. Letting go of that result and coming back. This too shall pass. What do I need to do next? This too shall pass. What's my next opportunity of seva? That's what it would.
Correct. Absolutely. Okay, so now we'll go to the next shloka where we will be like, okay, now we've understood all of this. Now, where does it lead us? Right? End of the Bhakti Yoga. What is it asking us to do now? Right? Where does it lead us now? Let's look at shloka 12. Yeah, Ritesh.
So can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just when Abhinav mentioned the sports analogy, because I also I make an attempt at playing a sport, but I realized through that whole thing that, it's about being calm and composed as well. The best way to deal with anything in life, if you're fixated on the past and what you've done wrong and you're just anxious about it, the results are terrible. But if you're just calm, composed to anything, and you're not anxious and you're just peaceful within, and just you focus on what's going to come with you, and of course the reaction time at that point, because the next point is just there, the results are always far superior to just being anxious. So I think that I've personally felt. So
And that's what we read in chapter 3, the power of equanimity.
Correct.
that if you are equanimous, which means you are not attached to the result of what is going to happen, not going to happen, you're going to allow it to flow, you will perform that much better. That because equanimity means your connection with Bhagwanji, and connection with Bhagwanji is the most efficient way of us to do action. That's the entire principle that we read in chapter 3.
Correct.
Right?
So
What's
if
the
you are
phrase,
calm
Tuina?
in any situation, if you are calm in any situation, that means you are in yoga with Bhagwanji. What were you saying, Abhinav?
What's the phrase? It's something Yog Karmasu Kaushalam.
Yoga Karma Sukoshalam. So if you are equanimity is yoga, and when you are yoga, then all your actions are
efficient.
Are most efficient. Okay. Okay, so let's do Shlok 12. Nana, will you read with us?
The question arises as to whether each successive course of discipline is in any way inferior to the one preceding it. Clarifying this, the Lord says,
Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasat
Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasa
jnanadhyanam vishishyate
jnana dhyanam vishishyate
dhyanat karma phalatyagah
dhyanat karma phalatyagah
tyagachantiranantaram.
Tyagat shantiranantaram.
Shreyo means best, right? Or better than. So Shreyo hi jnanat abhyasat, better than. Let's just read it. I think it's just very, very self-explanatory. Let's go ahead.
Knowledge is superior to practice. Meditation is superior to knowledge. Renunciation of outcome of actions is superior to meditation. For peace immediately follows renunciation.
Right. So, okay, just read the whole thing, then we'll come back.
Practice, knowledge, meditation, and renunciation. A devotional practice is useful only if it leads to the discipline of the mind and turning off the intellect for a better understanding of the importance of yoga, of devotion. Bereft of such an understanding, the practice would be a physical performance having no spiritual substance. It is this understanding that is denoted by the term knowledge.
Okay, so here the four things written here on top, right? Practice, knowledge, meditation, and renunciation in the order of importance. Practice is the least important. Knowledge is more important than practice. Meditation is more important than knowledge, and renunciation of attachment to actions is attachment to results is more important than meditation. Okay. Now, what does practice here mean? Right? Practice means any kind of physical karm kand that we talk of. Okay. Now, that karm kand could potentially be nam jap. It can be the puja, the physical puja that is required to be done, or the yagya, the physical yagya that we may do, or dan, the action, the physical action of doing a dan, any of these actions, okay, that is required to be done as a part of bhakti yoga. That is termed here practice. It's karm kand. Okay. Now, one of the reasons that I think all of us have it at least the initial times as we studied science and everything, we turned away from temples, from puja, from religion, was because we have over a period of time witnessed a lot of karm kand, okay, in our lives, and with like and this karm kand is devoid of all understanding as to like why it is being done. You just do a ritual for the sake of doing a ritual without really understanding why this ritual is being done. What does it signify? And what is being told here is that, look, first of all, it doesn't mean that these are bad. Okay, rituals, it's not throwing out rituals out of the window. It's just saying that rituals bereft of the knowledge of why you're doing a ritual is useless. Okay, if you are doing puja, in that puja, you light a diya, Why do you light a diya? What is it representative of? Why do you light a scent? What is it representative of? What does agarbatti do? Why do you offer food to Lord? Why do you offer flowers to Lord? What do each of those actions represent? Why do we celebrate certain festivals? What do those festivals represent? Are we just going through it as a party? Or are we understanding the subtle behind that? Why? So that is the whole point. When we do yajna as a physical form, right? Why are we doing that yajna? What does each of those activities mean? What is it supposed to invoke? If we do it without this knowledge, then it is just karma kand. Then it is of no use. It will be, you might as well not do it. Okay. So that is what is being told here. But so knowledge is superior to doing that. So that means doing it with full understanding as to like, why am I doing it? What does it signify? How should I do it correctly? See, if you don't have that knowledge, you won't even know the correct way of doing things, right? So knowledge is superior to just karma. And how do we get to knowledge? We get to knowledge through this type of scriptural studies. This is acquisition of knowledge. Okay. Now that acquisition of knowledge can be acquisition of knowledge from Gita, which tells you about life principles. It can be reading of Vedas and Upanishads that tell you how to do certain actions and what is the right way to live life in terms of actual physical actions, what must be done in certain situations, right? It can be pretty prescriptive, right? So if you want guidance, that prescription is also available through various sources, right? Let's read more.
Again, merely acquiring the knowledge of the importance of yoga would be sorely inadequate for the purpose of yoga unless it is carefully assimilated into the very being of the aspirant by a process of subjective contemplation, which is basis of meditation. Thus, meditation has been held superior to knowledge.
Perfect. So now we attend the classes, right? We attend the classes, we understand what are the various principles of living life. We understand, we may attend a class on how to do yajna, or how to do, or what are the, how to do puja correctly. We may know all of these things, right? If we don't practice it, if we don't do meditation on it, what does meditation mean? Nidhi dhyasan, manan and nidhi dhyasan. Then it is that knowledge is of no use. Because what you've done is you've got the books home, you've put all that knowledge in your head, but you're actually not thinking about it, you're not meditating on it, you're not contemplating on it, and it is having zero impact on your behavior. It has not got assimilated into you. That means you've done zero. You've got just jhadu inside the house और झाड़ू उठा के side में रख दिया घर में. That's what you've done. You've not used that jhadu to clean up the house. The house will still remain as dirty, no? Just getting jhadu inside the house and leaving it there does not help you. You have to use the jhadu. You have to use the vacuum cleaner. You have to do the actual work. That is nidhi dhyasan, manan and nidhi dhyasan. What does this particular principle mean for me? Am I applying it right now in this situation? Or that this situation I'm facing, how am I feeling? What am I doing? Is this in line with the scriptures? Is this in line with what Bhagwanji wants me to do? And if it is not, then why am I doing what I'm doing? What is causing me to behave in this manner? That is Swadhyay. That is Manan and Nidhi Dhyasan. Without that Manan, Nidhi Dhyasan, meditation. So meditation is not just sitting in one place for 10 minutes and doing meditation. That is not the meditation that is being referred to here. Meditation here specifically is referring to living meditation with open eyes. The real meditation is Manan and Nidhi Dhyasan, which must lead to cleansing of our antakaran, which must be reflected by a change in our behavior, in how we deal with various VVGPs. If that hasn't happened, then you know you are doing no Manan and Nidhi Dhyasan. If your behavior hasn't changed over last 6 months, every 3 months, 6 months, if you're not progressing, then you're wasting your time. You're doing all the pujas, you're doing all the anushtan that is being talked about, you're attending all the classes, but no impact in our behaviors. Then that's of no use, right? So Manan and Nidhi Dhyasan is very important and must be done for you to take benefit of anything that has happened before. Now again, This does not say that don't do the first two things. You need the very first step of doing the practice, because we are physical beings. We are very, very body conscious. We're steeped in body conscious deeply. There is no way for us to get out of that body consciousness except by using the body consciousness. Everything around us and what situation we are in can be used to elevate ourselves or can be used to decelerate ourselves into lower forms. So this body consciousness that we experience and are so steeped in can now be used via the karma kand, via the various actions, swadhyay, naam jap, puja, anushtan. Use all of these. This is using body consciousness. Okay, use it to make that this very body consciousness your rope to get out of this mire of delusion. So do that, but then do it with full understanding as to why you are doing it. Okay, and when you do it with the understanding of why you're doing it, you fully now understand, you have that knowledge. Now start to actually use that knowledge on a daily basis with awareness. Do the manana nididhyasana, the contemplation, this is the sagar manthan. That sagar manthan has to happen. The churning of the milk of ocean. What is that milk? Milky ocean is a consciousness. The churning of our consciousness has to constantly happen through manana and nididhyasana. Okay.
But meditation is likely to be continuously disturbed and distracted if cravings of the outcome of action keep on disturbing the mind. These disturbances and distractions can be eliminated and the mind set at rest effectively and completely if the outcome of performance of actions is renounced. If this is not done, apprehensions for the future outcome will keep on playing havoc with any attempts at meditation. This is why renunciation of outcome of action is held to be superior to meditation. Continue.
So the beauty of this shloka also is that it starts with the gross, right, where it says ritualistic, but it also ends with the gross application of your journey. And what is in the middle is what we call antakaran ki shuddhi, right? So it starts with the gross, that don't be ritualistic, as Tuina beautifully explained. Then it said the second step, which is knowledge for the sake of knowledge will only result in ego, which will make you even steeper in sansar. Because you will give gyan, you will think you're better than others, etc. That doesn't work. Knowledge has to be um, uh, co-joined with what Shrina said, nididhyasana and meditation. But even that is not enough. You will know you're doing nididhyasana only and only if you are beginning to renounce the fruit of your actions. It is not saying you have to renounce your actions or the world or your duty or any of that. It's only saying everything will stay the same. You will just be renouncing the fruits of your action.
It's all a mental
Which means,
choice.
so it basically means your antakaran ki shuddhi is between knowledge and nididhyasana, knowledge and meditation. And once your antakaran ki shuddhi ho jati hai, then in the real world, it is manifested by you not being attached anymore to the fruits of your action. And this in crux is the entire Gita, like this entire shloka. That's why this chapter is such a powerful chapter, because each shloka just highlights exactly where we are in our journey and what we need to do.
Okay, so yeah, so meditation can, so you
I think Ritu has a question.
Yeah, I had one question. When you say nididhyasana, you mean renunciation?
no.
What is nididhyasana?
Nididhyasana is basically same as manan. When you're contemplation, this basically means contemplation. Contemplation, churning of your consciousness, understanding why do I do what I do. Okay. I know it is not good to get angry, right? It is when I get angry and I get consumed by anger. That means I'm not in yoga anymore. It is not the way to be, because now I'm not controlling anger anymore as an energy which can be used properly to serve God's purpose. Now anger is controlling me, correct? I know that. Yet I get angry, right? So knowing the principle is not enough. Now there is something going on inside of me that despite knowing this intellectually, I still get angry. So there is a disconnect between my conscious understanding of something and my behavior pattern. Something gets triggered and everything happens at an unconscious level, which I'm not aware of. Something happens, it triggers, and my old behavior patterns, my old habits will come up to the fore, and I will react with upsetness and anger. Correct? So now that's the Nididhyasana. What happened here? Why did I get upset? Why did I forget what the principle was in that moment? Exactly what happened? What was the trigger in the situation? The gross is this much. This seems like the situation, but there's one particular tiny little thing in that big thing that really was the major trigger. What was that thing? Figure that out. And once I figured that out, why did it upset me so much? What does it represent to me that it caused me to get this upset? Then you understand what does it represent, and then you understand, go back to it, like, is it really that important? Where did that thing, why do I attach so much importance to it? What happened? At what stage did this become? What story am I holding on to, which is causing me to interpret a certain situation in this manner, although that interpretation may be absolutely inaccurate? That is Nididhyasana, getting to the crux of that. And then being able to visualize, okay, if this happens again, what will I do differently? Visualize it 25 times, again and again and again, so that you break your old habit pattern and you develop a new habit which is now in line with the scriptures. This is Nididhyasana. Knowing that I did not behave in accordance with scriptures. Why? Where is the disconnect? What caused that disconnect to happen? In really the minutest detail, after asking 25 questions, why, then you get to that crux, and then you revisualize, rewire yourself to a new behavior pattern. This is Manan and Nididhyasana. This is churning of your consciousness. If you're not asking yourself again and again why you are acting, all of us are constantly acting outside of the principles that we are learning every day. If we are not asking ourselves and we are not rewiring ourselves on a daily basis, you are getting that opportunity on a daily basis, then there is no Manan and Nididhyasana happening.
Yes, just as when you said this, I tend to do that as well. I tend to analyze a lot, and then someone told me this, that you're over analyzing. So I'm thinking that now, since I'm analyzing, is there a line between analysis and overdoing it, or is there no limit to it? Like, I think you keep, because you said like 25 times, but you tend to go into this whirlwind of where you draw the line of the analysis. Like there's also this concept of letting go also, because as you said, no, because you go into the root of everything and you say, why is this? What is the root cause analysis of it? And what is it? We have to go to the root of the matter. But sometimes, isn't it just better to just let go, forgive, forget, and just move on?
I think Abhinav is best placed to answer this question. He'll be able to really offer good insight. From my point of view, I'll just say two things before I give it over to Abhinav. One is, analysis is of yourself and not the situation. Okay? Analysis is not of the situation. Ki, why did this happen? Why did blah, blah, blah? Why did he do this? Why did he do that? No. Analysis should only be focused on your own self. And letting go is letting go of your attachment, anger, upset with everything else outside of you. That is important. And now, over analysis piece, I think Abhinav will be able to really shed very insightful discussion on that.
No pressure, huh?
No pressure.
So the difference is, so the question essentially, if I understand, is what is the difference between analysis and reflection, and where is that line? Right? When you are reflecting, right, you are not judging. You are experiencing whatever you have to experience and you're making sense of it. Because everything happens for a lesson or a blessing. So when you are reflecting, you are finishing each reflection either with feeling the gratitude for that situation, or you're reflecting on a situation. Ki, what was I supposed to learn out of this to make me a better version of myself? In analysis, and this is where our brains are very much trained, we use a lot of data points to come to conclusions and judgment. That's how we train our intellect. Ki, what data point can I make, and what decision can I make, and what judgment I can make? That's the difference. So in Gita, there is never analysis. We don't need to do analysis. We just need to reflect. And when we reflect, we take into all the data points, but we're not looking for an answer. We're not judging anything. We're just experiencing it for what it is and saying, can I be grateful for this? Or is there something for me to learn and move on? So you're naturally, when you're reflecting, you're not attaching yourself to what's happening. You're just letting it go, and you're just trying to uh, take out the nuggets of wisdom for yourself. In analysis, you tend to go round and round to find an answer.
I think the key point here is judgment. If you are judging something, then you're not in reflection. There is no space for judgment when you are in a space of reflection. So if you're calling things, this is right, this is wrong. This should have happened, this shouldn't have happened. He should have said this, he shouldn't have said this. He caused this. That moment you are in judgment. And you're analyzing.
And most of our breakdowns start because of judgment. Whether you're judging yourself because you didn't do good enough, or you're judging the situation because it wasn't good enough, or you didn't get a favorable outcome, everything starts in judgment. So when you start a breakdown in judgment, you're not reflecting. You can say, I'm calm, I'm calm, I'm calm, but that doesn't mean you're reflecting, because you're still subtly but very powerfully attached to that outcome. So you're doing analysis.
And
you have to be careful about how you.
Opposite. Yeah. And acceptance is the opposite of judgment. So in reflection, you are always in acceptance of whatever is happening, because Bhagwan ji ka result hai na. Bhagwan ji ne ye situation create kiya. So there's no judgment. There's no right or wrong. There's no conversation around right or wrong.
It's also ego, isn't it? In the sense that reflection and analysis, when if an analysis is rooted from your ego because you're putting your judgment, whereas in acceptance, there's no ego involved as well. So that's also another thing.
Yeah, so judgment always comes from ego. There's no other space.
So the way I always look at ego for me is, whenever in my mind I think of right or wrong, that is a very deep reflection of ego. Right and wrong, right and wrong. Moment you say, no, this is right, this is wrong, even to your child, its chances are your way you're saying it is in an egoistic manner. So if a child reflects back hard against you or rebels hard against you, it's only because you've triggered his ego. You've not triggered his divinity in the way you've spoken about that situation. And that happens on a daily basis, 100 times a day. It happens the way we think about strangers we meet on the street. It happens when somebody might be really overweight and your mind immediately says, what type of life have we lived? Right? Like, judgments come so quickly to us. Right and wrong, right and wrong, right and wrong. But that is the crux of why we are also so unhappy. Because we're constantly trying to find that perfect right, which doesn't exist.
Did you read the next shloka with us?
I haven't, I think I'm not finished.
Sorry. Please go.
The results of this renunciation is an understandable peace of mind, in which meditation posits the being of the aspirant in a loving unification with the Lord and in the attainment of the yoga of devotion. As a practical course, an aspirant can start with devotional practices accompanied with acquisition of knowledge by the scriptural studies and from the preachings of the saints, As knowledge develops, is aroused in meditation, and as meditation matures, one naturally loses interest in the outcome of actions. This leads to peace and the attainment of everlasting bliss.
So I think in the end, what you have to remember is that the goal is tyag. The goal is tyag of desires, of kamna. That is our biggest, is the biggest root cause of all our downfall. Desires. So the goal is giving up desires, tyag. Okay, and once you achieve that, once you have given up once there is renunciation, there is undisturbable peace of mind. Undisturbable peace of mind. There is no further, like basically the water is absolutely calm. And if the water is calm, you can see what is at the bottom of that lake. There are no more desires, are the ripples that are ripples on the water. So the moment there is desire, it will create ripples on that peaceful water, and you can no longer see through. Okay, it clouds our judgment, it clouds our understanding, and we no longer know what is right, what is wrong. All comes from desires. So there's only one desire. Now, desire, again, as we had talked about before, desire is a very strong force of energy. It's a very strong force. You can't let it go. You can't say, I will not have desires, because the world has been created. The very basis of the creation of this world is desire. Eko ham bahusyami. That was the desire of the Lord. How can you now say, it's like saying, fish saying, I will not live in water. Okay. This world was, the genesis of this world is in desire. Eko ham bahusyami. So then how can you escape desires? So the idea is not to escape desires as much as to transmute it to the right desire. Transmute it to the desire of achieving Bhagwanji. That's what we're supposed to do. Just as in meditation. So sometimes you get confused between what you're supposed to do. Like in meditation, I remember when I had started meditating, I used to get quite frustrated because my thought process was that I have to stop the flow of thoughts, until I realized that the thoughts will never stop. It's unceasing. So it's a frustrating process in the first place. There's no way I will ever achieve that. The idea is to watch the thoughts come and go and not get attached to it. It's like they are coming and they are passing. You don't just hop onto one and ride off with it. Okay, that is real meditation. So similarly, desires, you're not supposed to stop desires as much as you transmute the desire from a petty desire of achieving something in this world to the higher desire of achieving Bhagwanji. And that is the real tyag. It comes from giving up attachment to the results of our actions. And so now, what is a practical course given to us? Start with devotional practices. Acquire knowledge of the right thing to do. And then churn your mind constantly on these learnings. We cannot say, I will not do devotional practices because I don't connect to it, because there is no other way for us to remind ourselves constantly, which will allow us to stay connected to the Lord. Because we are so steeped in body consciousness, we are so physical, we are so gross in nature that it's only gross things that can help us at this point of time. Right? When we have elevated ourselves enough, we may be able to let go of these. But at the stage that we are at, we can't say, I don't want devotional practices. I will not do Nam Jap. I will not do Puja. Or I will not do my Swadhyay. I will not do my Shloka reading. These are all physical things. I will not do Anushtan. If you don't do it, you will just not elevate yourself beyond a point, right? The world is very, very glamorous. We get into this world and we forget. Immediately we forget. 30 minutes after this class, we'll forget what the principles were. The only way it's like, when we are in school, how do we remind ourselves of something? How do we remember something? How do we commit something to memory? Repetition, 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 repetition. The more we repeat, the more strongly it gets into our memory. The more indelibly it gets imprinted in us. We read it only one time, it is going to get washed off because it's not deeply imprinted enough. You keep repeating, that imprint will get deeper and deeper and deeper. It's the same concept. All these devotional practices are reminders to us of what the principles are and how we must lead, so that when we go out in the world, the deeper those imprints become, the more aware we are of those imprints. Okay, the deeper it goes from conscious mind to the unconscious, subconscious mind, which is where all our actions spring from. And your subconscious is really deep. So tuck, 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 niche tak jana hai usko. It has to go all the way deep inside for it to become habitual. That is why you need these physical practices. That's why you need anushtans. And when we do those anushtans long enough, it slowly transcends deeper into our subconscious, starts to transform our behavior patterns, starts to change our habits. Right? So we start with that, we acquire knowledge, and then we are going to do more and more manana and nididhyasana. As we contemplate more and more and more, it becomes stronger, it matures, our practice matures, and that is what keeps on elevating our consciousness slowly until we find God. Okay, Rituj, we'll go to the next one.
The Lord now describes the characteristics of a loving devotee. A careful study of these characteristics helps an aspirant in the assessment of progress in the path of the yoga of devotion.
So now these last 8 shlokas in this chapter, this is called Amritashtak. And very important for us to remember what, or this is basically will help us understand where are we along our path. Okay, so 8 to 12, 8 to 11, you read when you're in confusion to help you figure out what you should be doing in this moment, or how can you get out of that confusion and delusion and connect yourself to Lord. And 13 to 20 will tell you where you are along the path now. Okay. Adveshta sarvabhutanam.
Adveshta sarvabhutanam.
Maitra karuna eva cha.
Maitra karuna eva cha.
Nirmamo nirahankaraha.
Nirmamo nirahankaraha.
Samadukha sukhakshami.
Samadukha sukha shami.
Santushta satatam yogi.
Santushta satatam yogi.
Yatatma dhrida nishchayaha.
Yatatma drira nishchayaha.
Mayyarpita mano buddhihi.
Mayyarpita mano buddhi.
Yo madbhakta same priyaha.
Yo madbhakta same priyaha. He who harbors no grudge towards any being is always friendly and compassionate, is free of possessiveness and ego, is equipoised in pleasure and suffering, is forgiving, ever contented, always intent on yoga, is in full control of his mind, is of firm conviction, with his mind and intellect dedicated to me. Such a devotee is dear to me. The characteristics of a devotee who is dear to the Lord. The full import of each of these characteristics must be understood clearly. First, not harboring a grudge. By perceiving or imagining a threat or harm from someone, a man may harbor a grudge against that one. But the devotee is free from such a habit. By constant and vigilant practice, the devotee becomes devoid of any grudge. A loving devotee should be extremely careful to avoid malice or grudges which vitiate the atmosphere and make one agitated. It should be remembered that the discipline of devotion thrives only in a peaceful condition of the mind.
Okay, so here, the first thing is not harboring a grudge. Why? Because like he says, right, we perceive or we imagine a threat or harm from someone. So we think somebody else is going to do us a harm, and then we get upset and angry and we hold a grudge against them. Then there is a feeling of, I want to get back at them, right? My ego gets hurt.
It's this exact point we discussed 5 minutes ago. The moment you think right and wrong, you are now thinking from ego. That's it. Everything is his prasad to you, whether it's kadava, whether it's bitter or it's sweet.
Hmm.
Moment you think beyond that, you have now thinking from ego. And then that results manifest as a grudge or other ways.
By constant and vigilant practice. Constant and vigilant. You cannot be vigilant if you don't even remember the practice anymore. That's why we have to do Naam Jap constantly, because it is constantly reminding us of Bhagwanji. Which reminds me that our Naam Jap Anushthan is going to start on November 20th. And we'll come back to you with more details on that over the WhatsApp. And we'll have to start to commit ourselves to the Naam Jap Anushthan soon. Okay? Yes, Rituj.
This what Abhinav said about karwa and sweet. I was just thinking that we tend to add these adjectives to the taste, but everything is beneficial for us. Like take an example at a very gross level, like medicine. The most it is very karwa, but it's so beneficial for us in that regard. So that way is also it's just a very gross analogy, which might not be very relevant, but yeah, but.
No, that's absolutely relevant. And बच्चों को जिनको kids who don't understand how beneficial this is and they only focus on the gross, they're like, yuck. So difficult, right? They don't want to take the medicine. And then how do we adults? What do you mean by adults, right? Now we understand intellectually and after experiencing it, experientially, we understand that this is really, really beneficial for me. So we are able to look past that immediate gross negative nature of the medicine and we take it no matter what. That's exactly what is required of us when we do Nidhi Dhyasan. We get to that experiential knowledge of why some things are good for us and why we need to follow what is told to us, right? And then we are able to look past the good, the bad. Very good example.
Number 2, friendly. It is natural for a person to be happy when a friend is happy and unhappy when a friend is unhappy. An extension of this sense of friendliness to all beings makes the devotee unmindful of the misconduct of anyone else.
Now here, we are not talking of being of like, we generally operate from a space where I am friends with Kavita, but I'm not friends with Abhinav. Right? That's not how we're supposed to operate. We're supposed to be friendly people. So if I'm a friendly person, this is the difference of going from doing to being. When I'm doing, then I'm friendly to A and I'm not friendly to B. Because I like this person, I don't like this person. I'm operating from a space of what I like and don't like, right? Likes and dislikes. We have to move away from that and we have to become a friendly person. Now, if I have moved from doing to being, then no matter who comes in my life will always find me friendly. And I'm not doing anything out of ordinary. It's become sahaj to me. This is who I am being. It doesn't matter. Then I don't have to worry. I don't have to think. I just have to be myself. That's the journey. Everything is from doing to being for us.
Just on this friendly bit, I'm so sorry I'm speaking too much, but I feel that when I also deal with people, and I think uh, I am friendly and I talk to people, but it's also very draining for me at the end of it. So I think is it Bhagwanji telling me that okay, this is not your natural thing. You're just putting too much effort. I feel drained at the end of it. So I don't know. Is that a sign or
So,
what?
no, I wouldn't say it's a sign. I think um, it's an opportunity for you to do a little bit of reflection on your bhav and your intent when you're being friendly. If you're being friendly because you want to project yourself a certain way, or you're looking for validation and praise, or you're looking to be a certain image, that is why it is draining. But if you're actually just being yourself, and being yourself for me as well, right? I'm through and through an extrovert. But I've noticed there are times where on a conversation, my the I just need to be silent for 20 minutes. Even if I have thoughts, it's okay. I don't need to share every thought that comes to my mind. And I don't need to convince every other person on what I'm thinking and change that. I don't need that. That is when I get drained. But if I'm just enjoying that company and enjoying that silence, and then if they think I'm not smart enough, that's not me. That doesn't matter now to me. So it's about experiencing your bhav and your intent in every engagement. That's exactly where your energy is being.
Correct.
I used to lose a lot of energy because I was looking for that validation and I was projecting myself to be something I'm not.
And
Now
this is
I'm
a
very
person who's
comfortable.
like, yeah, and this is a person who's like super extrovert and likes being with people, apparently like gets energy from people. So I have had that similar story of like, I don't think I get energy from people. I get energy from being by myself. I want to read my own book. I want to be blah, blah, blah. Being with others drains me of energy. I've held on to that notion for the longest period of time. But like 3 or 4 years ago, in one of the conversations when I was doing a lot of Mananidhi Dhyasan on this part, at some point of time 4 years ago, I said, okay, I can see the stories I'm holding on to, and I'm not going to hold on to the story anymore. I'm going to let go of the story. The whole story of extrovert, introvert, first of all, I'm going to let go. There is no label of extrovert and introvert. So I let go of those labels 4 years ago. And then I started to dwell deeper into like, why do I lose energy with people? And I discovered, at least for myself, of how I have this whole thing of everything needing to be perfect, right? So if I invite people over to my place, then everything has to be perfect. I have to cook food. I will not allow food from being ordered from outside. And I have to make like a 9 course meal, right? And then I have, the house has to be in a certain way. Have to be, flowers have to be put up in such a way. Oh, if my plant is dying, I have to make sure that that plant has to be changed. Like, I have, what is all of this? It's coming from a space of where? Ego, right? Because I'm projecting myself there. I'm projecting my house. I'm using my plant fiber. Everything is a part of me. So I want everything to be perfect. Right now, I have had a story in a very positive way of how this must be. But end of the day, it all comes down to ego, however nicely you may couch it. Okay. And when you let go of that whole thing, that you want to be with people, to just be with people, to do what you need to with the people, and everything else is ancillary. When you let go of your attachment to things, then you start to generate a lot of energy. Now it doesn't matter. I can host people in my house on any weekday or weekend. It does not matter. I'm not attached to the idea that, oh, I have to be home at 6 o'clock, take a shower, get ready for a 7 o'clock party. I must be dressed up properly. I did not sleep that. None of those things, right? All of these are our own notions that create a lot of energy drain. When you let go of all of this and you become much more simpler, then you can actually be with people the way you're supposed to be, rather than couched behind your food and your house and your dress and your time and your blah, 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 all those 2,500 wrappers we put around ourselves. Right? So you just need to ask yourself, it's an opportunity for you to know what's causing this energy drain and then let go. Yes, Mita.
I think I'm also an extrovert, and I realize that when I'm with a group of people, I have this urge to make sure that the conversation is flowing because I don't like silence in a group of people. So then I end up making a lot of effort sometimes, and I come back feeling that I'm tired by making that much effort, like, overcompensating for quietness. And that also sometimes with certain group of people, it tires you out. So I thought that is also like
That's
there
such
is
a
no.
that's such a great reflection, Smita. I will invite you next time in that situation to be silent and not look at others, but look within on what you're experiencing, the anxiety that comes up and why it's coming up and where it just reflect on them. It will something is bubbling to come up that you are avoiding to see. And that's why you're behaving that way. So if you allow that silence to come in, you experience that emotion, you experience the subsequent thoughts that come with that emotion, you might be able to let go of that
But
attachment
I
to
have
other.
tried to be quiet because I'm such a chatty person. So sometimes when I'm just quiet, people actually ask me, are you okay? Are you unwell? Why are you so quiet today? Is something wrong? So that also kind of, then you're like, okay, I mean, I have to continue with my persona of being with certain group of people, you have to make that extra effort. So yeah, I mean, I'm trying how to get that balance where people start accepting me that I can be quiet also.
But then again, in that situation, right, you're living up to an image. You're not being yourself. You're living up to an image that people have of you, correct? And you feel the pressure of living up to that image then eventually, right? That is one. Second, this whole thing about discomfort with silence is a very common thing. It's not just you alone. All of us are very uncomfortable with silence. The example you gave is something that at a gross level we all experience. Nobody's comfortable with silence in group settings, and a lot of us will step in to create inane conversations in that moment to fill that silence. At another level, at a more macro level, we are very uncomfortable with silence in our lives, so we fill it up with rajoguni activities day in and day out. I have 10 minutes. Who do I call? What do I do? What should I buy? What should I plan for? Let me call somebody home. Let me arrange a party. Let me go out. Let me watch a TV. Let me watch movie. Let me do, I don't know, let me cook something new. We don't sit in silence because there's too much.
Or if your husband sits in
come up.
silence, or if your husband sits in silence for 10 minutes, why are you sitting down? There is so much to do. Why don't you add this? Why don't you do that?
I'm getting that, Abhinav. I'm hearing that. When you're back, we have a lot to do. Yeah, no, but I think this is very important for us to see that we can't sit in silence with ourselves or with others. We basically can't sit in silence with ourselves. Forget about being with others in that silence. It's us that we are trying to avoid. That is why the moment you have 10 minutes, you are finding another activity to do. Always observe that. And that's exactly what you need to let go, to sit in silence and do something. For all of us. Weekend before last, I was talking to Abhinav and telling him ki how much Rajoguni activity I involve myself in. दिवाली है, दिवाली गिफ्ट्स हैं, अभी ये करना है, वो काम बंद ही नहीं होता है, बंद ही नहीं होता है until we say done, I won't do this anymore. There is always a reason. वो हमेशा increase ही होगा. Work increases to fill the time available. Right? Okay. So we should probably now end the class here. We'll come back to this shloka in the next one. Okay. Smita, you'll do the closing shlokas and then we'll do the takeaways, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So maybe
I'll do the shloka then.
No, let's do the quick takeaways first, then we'll do the closing shlokas. So who wants to go first? Visalakshi, you've been really quiet today. So do you want to go with your... Let's hear from you.
My takeaway today is like each and every shloka, if I get confused, especially when you're handling the kids, right, it's a bit difficult nowadays. Our point of like they don't know this age what is right and what how we do the things, how we explain to them, because that age we are go through, but now we are older, right, when you compare to them. So that time I just started reading now how I can handle the kids. So I take one shloka and then I started reading. That was helping me. Either I'm taking the lesson for me, not for them. That is my lesson for me, or lesson for happiness to me. So everything is to me. I changed. I'm not changing. I'm not trying to change them now. I'm changing myself to how to tell in different way, like their age, how they can understand. So I change my activity now. because of like it's easy actually. I tried few things and then it's really work out now. Yeah. Thank you. That is my takeaway. We changes is within us. It's not outside. Yeah.
Thanks, Visalakshi. That is the crux of Gita, right? End of the day. Beautiful. Who wants to go next?
Shall I go? Yeah, the difference between analysis and reflection, that was, I think, would be my takeaway. Like analyzing a situation for by judgment with about the VVGP and the results and everything. It's all about you have to just reflect on yourself and how you could handle it better and then work on it and rewire yourself. That would be my takeaway. And of course, the analogy about the racket sports, that also I think I'd probably tell that to my kids also, that would be a way they can connect. Yeah. That would be my takeaway. Thank you.
I think it's similar to what? Sorry. Was someone else saying?
I was just saying, don't make me take names.
Okay. Oh, okay. No, so because I'll just say what my takeaway was what Naina ji also mentioned about how I have to do a lot of nididhyasan behind my actions, and I need to see where I am doing an analysis or am I reflecting? Because this whole thing about my ego and my judgment, which comes in it, I think I'm just being very hard on myself sometimes, or maybe I'm just being very judgmental about myself. And I just need to reflect and just accept that this is who I am. And now just deal with it and go with that. So that was that thing that really I need to practice this week and for the rest of my life. And also this concept of all the vices that are in me, the thing about my ego being judgmental, sarcastic, condescending, all these things that are there, these vices, they're just making me heavier. So this concept of and keeping me grounded to the world and to the gross level, the thing is of letting go is very important, and I have to let go of it and I have to give up. I have to give these up, not let go. Actually, give up is the word, that the essence of giving up, so that I can elevate myself. Because one thing is, I realize that I'm seeing all these qualities, but now I need to take the next step forward, which is just have to give them up. Then only can I progress in life. I can't. I'll just saying, oh, I was egoistic here, I was sarcastic here, I was judgmental here. But now I have to elevate myself. So for that hope, and the thing is, I can't do it myself, obviously. So I have to pray to God that God will help me give this up and I can elevate. So that's it.
So practically speaking, two things that we need to do there, right? One is, once we have seen the demons inside of us, we give them up to Lord, show it to him. First of all, accept them. Forgive ourselves for that. Right? That forgiveness is a very important characteristic which will come in later in the shloka itself. Forgive ourselves for that. Accept it for what it is. See it in, like, experience it. What is it like to have this experience, to have this quality? What does this quality make me do? What does it feel like? What does it taste like? What does it look like? What does it smell like? What is the visual evocation that it creates in me? Really deeply feel it and understand it. That's when you understand the true nature of that demon. And then accept it. It is what it is. ये भी भगवान जी ने बनाया है. Accept it. And then give it up to Lord with complete surrender. Don't think you will give it up. You can't give it up. Only he can make you do it, right? So you give it over to the Lord. Now, but you still have to do your own action, no? For him to take it away from you. What is your action? Now imagine yourself and understand that nidhi dhyasan of, like, at what point of time does that quality get invoked? That demon rises inside of you. What triggers it? What causes it to go down? How can you subdue it? How do you control it? What are the actions you need to do? And then visualize yourself doing the corrective actions, being a different way. Do all of that. These are the actions you do, but remember that these are only the actions you can do. Ultimately, God will take them away from you. So both these things have to happen for you to finally be able to get out of this rut.
Can you go next?
Yeah.
So it's my main takeaway, a lot of takeaways actually, the reflecting and analysis, and also as Meena was mentioning that sport analogy is also excellent to be in the present. And one more main takeaway is for me is that interconnection between the meditation and the renouncing the outcome of the action, because that is so true. Because when sitting in the meditation, if the mind is not calm, because we are attaching to the result, the meditation won't happen, because it needs the concentration. The only the calmness can bring that concentration which is needed, so which is the dharana, then only dhyana can happen. So this is an excellent point, and I know sometimes when I sit in meditation, it's not really happening. It's this is the reason behind it. I had to practice more matured, more in meditation by Nitidhyasan. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think for me personally, it is about the four principles to go about it. It is about I think practice, then knowledge, and then meditation and renunciation. And in that whole process, to quieten my mind a bit, because I'm also a very, very Rajoguni person. I need to constantly do things, and in that constant doing, you end up experiencing as much. So to quieten a bit and experience it more is by by the meditation and renunciation is what I would like to personally follow.
So today I learned this thing where Tuhina mentioned that if we are worried about the result, then we are still attached to the result. We haven't given up the attachment. So since a few weeks or months, maybe I'm trying to remind myself that I want to live in a mood of surrender to God. Like whatever happens, it's His will, and I will accept it. This is what I keep reminding myself. But then I am worried about the attachment. And today I realize that yes, I am worried about the attachment. Then I haven't given up. I am worried about the result. Sorry, I am worried about the result, but I haven't given up the attachment. So that still that says that I haven't given up the attachment. And then attachment comes from desire, and I realize it's true. I have a desire to have this thing. I have a desire to have this thing. That is why I am attached, and that is why I'm worried about the result. But then I keep myself reminding that I want to live in a mode of surrender, but then it's not happening. So yeah, somehow then I have to implement this where change my desire, not have the desire of that thing, and have the desire to attain God, and then maybe I'll be able to give up the attachment to the result and stop worrying.
Absolutely. So you have to give up, understand your desires, don't feel bad about holding those desires, and give them up to the Lord. And it's like, eventually as you keep practicing, Bhagyashri, it's all for all of us, right? We are constantly attached to something or the other. 2 meter move karte hain, yahan atak gaye, fir wahan atak gaye, fir idhar se chudaya, we move forward, then we again get cofied here. That's a constant way of being for us. That is why we need to do all these practices that are being told to us. Keep on doing that slowly, and then keep asking. Bhagwan ji ke saath ek hi puja honi chahiye. Do a lot of puja and anushthan and ask only for one thing. I just want your love. I just want, and even if you're not able to do that puja and say, I'm not able to do your puja also. I'm not able to surrender. I don't know how to surrender. Kshama Prarthana, right? That we do. It clearly states that. We repeat that Kshama Prarthana again and again and understand. I don't even know how to do puja. I don't know how to invoke you. I don't know how to do puja. I don't know how to surrender myself. But you teach me. I really want to do it. As long as I have that strong desire. See, no action. This is something that we read today also in this chapter. Things in this world can be attained by exertion and action. God, however, cannot be attained through any action. He can only be attained through intense desire. That's all we need for him. An intense desire to attain him That's all that we require. After that, he will work through us slowly to cleanse ourselves. So don't leave that desire. Keep that desire very strong and burning. Slowly, 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 he will work through us to cleanse ourselves, to cleanse our buddhi, to cleanse our mind, and bring that focus and bring ourselves to him. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for such lovely takeaways. We'll do the ending shlokas.
ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्ण एवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Narayan, Narayan, everyone. Narayan, Narayan.
Thank you.
Narayan, Narayan.